Don't touch my black wife. I'll be back tomorrow. He left her in a billionaire's mansion. What happened? His hands trembled as he climbed the marble staircase. Each step felt like walking toward his own execution. The master suite door stood slightly open, and when he pushed it wider, the smell hit him. Amara's perfume mixed with something else. Have you ever been so focused on success that you missed the warning signs right in front of you? Hi viewers, kindly tell us where you're watching from and what time it is. Warm welcome to the family. Enjoy the story. The diamond necklace hit the marble floor like a gunshot, the only sound in a mansion that had held too many secrets for one night. Daniel McAllister stood frozen in the doorway of the Coral Gables estate, his heart hammering against his ribs as he stared at the scattered diamonds. The white gold chain caught the morning light streaming through floor-to-ceiling windows, each stone reflecting fragments of nightmare he was just beginning to understand. Amara, his voice cracked the silence like breaking glass. No answer, just the whisper of palm trees swaying outside and the distant crash of waves against the seawall. The mansion felt wrong, empty in a way that went beyond physical absence. The kind of empty that happens when someone you love vanishes without a trace, leaving only questions and the echo of their last words hanging in perfumed air. Have you ever trusted someone completely, only to wonder if that trust destroyed everything you held dear? Have you ever come home expecting to find safety, only to discover that home had become a crime scene while you were gone? That's what Daniel felt as he picked up his wife's necklace with shaking fingers. The same necklace he'd fastened around her neck just 18 hours earlier. The problem wasn't just that Amara was missing. The problem was the note tucked beneath the necklace, written in her careful handwriting. I told you not to leave me here. What really happened in those 18 hours that changed everything? What turns a business trip into a marriage-ending catastrophe? What makes a devoted wife disappear before dawn, leaving only jewelry and accusations? The servants moved through the halls like ghosts, avoiding his eyes, cleaning surfaces that were already spotless. Maria, the housekeeper, jumped when he called her name. Where is she? Daniel's voice came out rougher than he intended. Senor McAllister, I was not here last night. Maria's English became more heavily accented when she was nervous. Mr. Castellanos, he gave us the evening off after the dinner party. That was the first lie. Daniel had specifically asked Victor to keep staff available for Amara's comfort. Victor Castellanos, his business partner, his ticket to a $200 million hotel development, his mistake. The dining room still held the ghost of last night's dinner party. 12-place settings, crystal glasses with lipstick stains, the lingering smell of expensive wine and betrayal. But something was off about the head of the table. Victor's chair was pulled back at an odd angle, like someone had left in a hurry. Daniel's phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. Check the security footage. Top drawer, master bedroom desk. Password, conquest. You're going to want to see this. His hands trembled as he climbed the marble staircase. Each step felt like walking toward his own execution. The master suite door stood slightly open, and when he pushed it wider, the smell hit him. Amara's perfume mixed with something else. Something male and possessive and raw. The desk drawer opened easily. Too easily. Inside, a tablet glowed with frozen security footage. Daniel's finger hovered over the play button for what felt like hours, but was probably only seconds. Then he saw movement on the screen. Two figures on a moonlit balcony. His wife in the white silk gown he'd bought her for their anniversary, and Victor Castellanos standing close enough to count her heartbeats. The footage showed Amara laughing at something Victor said, then crying, then laughing again. The emotional whiplash was visible even in grainy black and white. At 2:47 a.m., they moved inside. At 3:15 a.m., the camera feed went dark. If you've ever wondered how one night can destroy years of love and trust, you need to hear this story. Hit that like button and let's dive deep into what happens when business becomes personal, when trust becomes a weapon, and when the person you thought you knew disappears into the darkness. But here's what the security footage didn't show. The GPS tracker Daniel had secretly placed in Amara's purse after the third time she'd mentioned feeling uncomfortable around Victor. The tracker that was still transmitting from 200 miles offshore, moving at 30 knots toward the Bahamas. Victor's yacht was gone from the marina, and so was his wife. Daniel stared at the tracking app on his phone, watching the little red that represented everything he had left to lose. That was moving further from shore with every passing minute, moving toward international waters where yacht passengers could disappear forever, where business deals could be settled with methods that made lawyers unnecessary. He'd left Amara alone with a predator, thinking he was protecting their future. Now he had to decide, call the Coast Guard and expose everything, or find another way to bring her home before that red that vanished beyond help. The mansion's silence pressed against his eardrums like deep water. Outside, Miami's elite were waking up to coffee and gossip about last night's dinner party. Inside, Daniel McAllister was realizing that some business partnerships cost more than money. They cost everything. 3 days earlier, Daniel McAllister thought he was making the deal of a lifetime. He had no idea he was gambling with his marriage. The Miami heat hit him like a wall as he stepped off the private jet at Miami Executive Airport. Amara's hands squeezed his as they walked across the tarmac, her sundress fluttering in the humid breeze. She looked perfect as always, sun-kissed skin, natural hair pulled back in a way that showed off her elegant neck, designer sandals that clicked confidence against concrete. "You sure about this?" she asked, her Georgia accent softening the words into music. Daniel lifted their joined hands to his lips, kissing her knuckles like he had every day for 6 years of marriage. 200 million reasons to be sure, baby. This hotel deal will set us up for life. But even as he said it, something cold crawled up his spine. Maybe it was the way Victor Castellanos' assistant had insisted Amara accompany him to Miami. Maybe it was the research he'd done on his potential business partner. Research that revealed more questions than answers. Have you ever been so focused on success that you missed the warning signs right in front of you? Have you ever wanted something so badly that you convinced yourself the red flags were just shadows? Victor Castellanos owned half of South Beach and most of the politicians who regulated it. His money was clean now, but the whispers about how he'd made his first fortune never quite died. Still, Daniel needed this partnership. His oil investments in Texas were solid but slow. This Miami hotel development could multiply their wealth 10 times over in just 2 years. When does ambition cross the line into recklessness? When does providing for your family become gambling with their safety? The limousine ride to Coral Gables passed through neighborhoods that screamed money. Not new money, but the kind of generational wealth that bought silence and influence. Palm trees lined streets wide enough for parades, and every mansion tried to outdo its neighbors in displays of architectural excess. "It's beautiful," Amara said, but her voice carried doubt. "Almost too beautiful, like a movie set." She was right. Everything felt orchestrated, designed to impress and overwhelm. Even their hotel suite at the Biltmore was a carefully crafted seduction. Champagne chilling in crystal buckets, roses arranged with military precision, views of golf courses that looked painted onto the landscape. The first meeting took place in Victor's office, a corner suite in a downtown high-rise that offered panoramic views of Biscayne Bay. Floor-to-ceiling windows reflected power and possibility, while leather furniture and abstract art suggested both sophistication and barely contained violence. Victor Castellanos entered the room like he owned it, which of course he did. 63 years old, but built like a man who'd never accepted limitations. Silver hair perfectly styled, suit tailored to emphasize shoulders that could still intimidate younger men. His handshake was firm without being aggressive, his smile warm without reaching his eyes. Daniel, finally meeting the oil prince of Texas. Victor's accent carried traces of Cuba mixed with decades of American ambition. And this must be the famous Amara. The way Victor said her name made Daniel's jaw tighten. Too familiar, too appreciative, like he'd been practicing it. Victor took Amara's hand and held it longer than necessary, his thumb brushing across her knuckles in a gesture that could have been courtesy but felt like claiming. "Your husband has told me so much about you, though he failed to mention how stunning you are." Amara smiled politely, but stepped closer to Daniel, her free hand finding his arm. "Thank you. I've heard a lot about your business empire here in Miami." "Empire," Victor laughed, a sound like expensive whiskey over ice. "I prefer to think of it as a family. And family takes care of each other, protects each other's interests." His eyes lingered on Amara's face. All of their interests. The business presentation was flawless. Architectural renderings of a luxury resort that would transform a derelict South Beach block into a destination for international elite. Financial projections that looked conservative but promised returns that would make Daniel one of the wealthiest men in Texas. Construction timelines that seemed almost too good to be true. "The Miami tourism market is exploding," Victor explained, gesturing toward charts and graphs that painted pictures of endless profit. "But the real money is in exclusivity. This won't be just another hotel. This will be a private club, a sanctuary for people who can afford privacy." Daniel found himself nodding along, caught up in visions of success. But Amara asked the questions he should have been asking. What about the local community? What happens to the families living in those buildings now? Victor's smile tightened almost imperceptibly. "They'll be relocated, compensated fairly, of course. Progress requires sacrifice, Mrs. McAllister. I'm sure you understand." That evening, they attended a welcome dinner at Victor's Coral Gables estate. The mansion was a monument to taste and power. Spanish colonial architecture updated with modern luxury, gardens that belonged in palace courtyards, art collection that museums would kill for. 20 guests mingled on terraces overlooking Biscayne Bay, the kind of crowd that moved between Miami, New York, and Monte Carlo, depending on the season. Politicians, developers, old money families whose names appeared on hospital wings and university buildings. Amara looked incredible in the cocktail dress Daniel had bought her. Midnight blue silk that complemented her skin tone and made every other woman in the room seem slightly faded by comparison. But she seemed uncomfortable, staying close to his side, making polite conversation while her eyes stayed alert. "You don't like him," Daniel said during a quiet moment on the terrace. "I don't trust him," she corrected. "There's something about the way he looks at people, like he's calculating their value." Drop a comment if you've ever had a gut feeling about someone that everyone else ignored. Tell me about a time when your instincts screamed danger, but your logic said everything was fine. As dinner wound down, Victor approached them with 2 glasses of champagne and a proposition that would change everything. "I hope you'll both stay for the charity gala tomorrow night," he said, his attention focused entirely on Amara. "It's for the Children's Hospital, very worthy cause. Miami society at its finest." "We'd love to," Daniel replied, but Victor wasn't looking at him. "Your wife has such excellent taste," Victor continued, his eyes cataloging Amara's dress, her jewelry, her discomfort. "I do hope she'll be staying for the entire weekend. I have so many friends who would love to meet her." As they toasted the partnership with crystal glasses that probably cost more than most people's cars, Daniel felt a chill that had nothing to do with Miami's air conditioning. Victor's eyes never left Amara, and for just a moment, his smile looked less like friendship and more like hunger. To new partnerships, Victor raised his glass, and to getting everything we've always wanted. The champagne tasted like victory and promises. Daniel had no way of knowing it also tasted like the beginning of the end. The gown was a gift. White silk that clung to her curves like a second skin, delivered with a note that made her blood run cold. For tonight's performance. Amara stared at the designer dress hanging in the hotel closet, its price tag still attached. $15,000 for a piece of fabric that felt more like a trap than a gift. The note was written in elegant script on cream-colored paper that smelled like expensive cologne and bad intentions. "Daniel, you need to see this." Her voice carried across their hotel suite, but there was no answer. He left an hour ago for what was supposed to be a quick breakfast meeting with Victor. That was at 8 a.m. It was now past noon, and her phone showed 3 missed calls from unknown numbers. Have you ever felt like you were being dressed up for someone else's fantasy? Have you ever looked at a beautiful gift and known immediately that it came with strings attached? Strings that might strangle you? The gown was perfect, of course, Victor had somehow obtained her exact measurements, knew her preferred designers, understood exactly what colors made her skin glow. The attention to detail was impressive and terrifying in equal measure. Her phone buzzed with a text from Daniel. Emergency with the contracts. Lawyers need me in Orlando immediately. Flying out in 1 hour. So sorry, baby. Victor will take care of everything for tonight's gala. The second text arrived 30 seconds later with a dress. It's important for the deal. Amara read the messages 3 times, her fashion designer instincts analyzing the white silk like evidence in a crime she hadn't committed yet. The gown was beautifully constructed but designed for maximum impact. A deep V-neck that would command attention, a backless design that would make her feel exposed, fabric that would move like liquid mercury when she walked. This wasn't a dress. This was bait. When does hospitality become manipulation? When does a gift become a chain? When does saying yes to please your husband become saying yes to danger? The hotel suite felt smaller with Daniel gone. Marble bathrooms and silk drapes couldn't disguise the fact that she was alone in a city where she knew no one except a man who made her skin crawl. A man who somehow knew her dress size and her husband's schedule better than she did. She called Daniel's phone, straight to voicemail. She called his office in Houston. His assistant hadn't heard from him and seemed confused about any emergency meetings. She called the hotel concierge to ask about flights to Orlando. No private jets had filed flight plans for Miami Executive Airport that morning. The lies were stacking up like storm clouds. At 3 p.m., a knock on the door interrupted her growing panic. Hotel staff delivered a complete beauty package: hairstylist, makeup artist, manicurist, along with a note, "Looking forward to tonight. We're here to prepare you for the gala," the stylist announced, wheeling in enough equipment to stock a salon. "Mr. Castellanos wants you to look absolutely perfect." Amara wanted to refuse, wanted to slam the door and barricade herself inside until Daniel returned. But the stylist was already unpacking hot rollers, and the makeup artist was laying out palettes of color that would complement the white silk perfectly. "Has Mr. Castellanos sent you to prepare other wives for events?" Amara asked casually as the stylist began working on her hair. "Oh, he's very thoughtful that way," the woman replied, not meeting Amara's eyes in the mirror. "Always wants his guests to feel special, to look their absolute best." The way she said "guests" made Amara's stomach turn. How many other wives had sat in this chair, getting prepared for Victor's version of hospitality? By 6 p.m., her transformation was complete. The woman in the mirror looked like someone from a magazine. Hair swept up to showcase the gown's backless design. Makeup applied with professional precision. Skin glowing under strategically applied highlighter. She looked expensive, sophisticated, available. She looked like prey dressed for the hunt. The master suite's mirror reflected back a woman she didn't recognize. Sophisticated, dangerous, trapped in silk worth more than her car. The gown fit like it had been made specifically for her body, which it probably had been. Every curve was highlighted. Every line was perfect. Every detail was calculated to make her impossible to ignore. Her phone remained stubbornly silent. No return calls from Daniel. No explanation for his sudden departure. No rescue from an evening that stretched ahead like a minefield disguised as a party. At 7 p.m., a car arrived. Not a taxi or rideshare, but a black sedan with tinted windows and a driver who knew her name without being told. "Mrs. McAllister? Mr. Castellanos is waiting." The drive through Coral Gables felt like a funeral procession. Streets lined with mansions that belonged in movies. Palm trees perfectly spaced like soldiers at attention. Twilight painting everything in shades of gold and shadow. Beautiful and ominous and completely unreal. Have you ever worn something that made you feel powerful and vulnerable at the same time? Have you ever gotten dressed knowing that your appearance was about to be used as a weapon against you? The Castellanos mansion blazed with lights when they arrived. Valet parking, red carpet, photographers capturing guests as they entered. This wasn't just a charity gala. This was a society event, the kind that would appear in Miami lifestyle magazines and gossip blogs. Victor waited at the front entrance, resplendent in a custom tuxedo that probably cost more than most people's cars. When he saw her emerge from the sedan, his smile was pure predatory satisfaction. "Amara." He took her hand and brought it to his lips, his eyes never leaving hers. "You look absolutely radiant. The gown suits you perfectly." "Thank you for the generous gift," she replied carefully, "though I'm not sure it was necessary." "Beautiful women deserve beautiful things," Victor said, offering his arm. "And tonight, you are the most beautiful woman in Miami." As they walked toward the mansion's entrance, Victor's hand settled on the small of her back, right where the gown's backless design left her skin exposed. His touch was warm, possessive, and completely inappropriate for a married woman whose husband had mysteriously vanished 12 hours earlier. The last photograph taken as they entered the mansion showed Amara in profile, the white silk gown flowing around her like liquid moonlight. She looked elegant, sophisticated, completely in control. She looked like everything Victor Castellanos wanted her to appear to be. What the photograph didn't capture was the text message she'd received just as they reached the front door, a message from Daniel's phone that made her blood freeze. "I'm sorry. I never meant for this to happen. Whatever he asks, please forgive me." Daniel's kiss goodbye that morning had lasted longer than usual, his hands trembling against her face. "Promise me you'll stay close to the other guests," he'd whispered, and she'd nodded, thinking it was just protective husband anxiety. Now she realized it had been a farewell. The dining room held 12 guests, but only 2 people mattered, and everyone could feel the electricity between them. Crystal glasses caught candlelight like trapped stars while conversations flowed around the mahogany table like a careful dance of power and pretense. But underneath the polite dinner party atmosphere, something else was happening. Something that made the other guests shift uncomfortably in their seats and find excuses to leave early. Amara sat at Victor's right hand, positioned like a trophy wife who wasn't actually his wife. The other couples, politicians, developers, society wives, made polite conversation while stealing glances at the beautiful woman in white silk who clearly didn't belong to the man, treating her like his personal possession. Have you ever been the center of attention in a way that made your skin crawl? Have you ever smiled and played along while every instinct screamed at you to run? "Tell me about your fashion business, Amara," Victor said, his voice carrying across the table like he was announcing something important. "I understand you're quite talented." She nearly choked on her wine. She'd never mentioned having a fashion business. It was something she dreamed about, sketched designs for in private moments, but never shared with anyone except Daniel. "I'm not sure what you mean," she replied carefully. Victor smiled, the kind of expression that looked warm from a distance but felt cold up close. "Oh, but you have such an eye for design. The sketches in your apartment are quite impressive." The sketches in her apartment, the private designs she kept in a portfolio under their bedroom dresser. Designs that no one except Daniel had ever seen. How long had Victor been watching her? How deep did his surveillance go? And why did Daniel's sudden emergency feel less like coincidence and more like orchestration with every passing minute? "You must be thinking of someone else," she said, but her voice lacked conviction. "Perhaps." Victor's eyes held hers across the candlelit table. "Though I have an excellent memory for beautiful things. When someone makes you feel special and trapped at the same time, what do? When compliments feel like threats and attention feels like a cage closing around you, how do you escape without breaking?" Mrs. Hendricks, the wife of a city council member, cleared her throat nervously. "The charity auction raised quite a bit this year, didn't it, Victor?" "Indeed. Though tonight's Real treasure isn't up for auction." Victor raised his wine glass toward Amara. "Some things are priceless." The toast felt like a claim being staked in public. Other guests murmured agreement while avoiding eye contact, their discomfort thick as Miami humidity. They knew something was happening that shouldn't be happening, but Victor Castellanos was too powerful to challenge and too dangerous to offend. By the third course, excuses began flowing as freely as the wine. "Early morning meeting tomorrow. Babysitter has to leave by 10. Flight to New York first thing." One by one, the other couples melted away, leaving behind empty chairs and the growing certainty that their departure was exactly what Victor had planned. By dessert, only 4 people remained: Victor, Amara, and an elderly couple who seemed too intimidated to leave. "The Montgomerys were just telling me about their art collection," Victor said smoothly. "Weren't you, Charles?" Charles Montgomery looked like he'd rather be anywhere else on Earth. "Actually, Martha and I should probably—" "Nonsense. The night is young." Victor's tone carried weight that made the old man sink back into his chair. "Besides, I want to show Amara the Picasso in the study. She has such an appreciation for fine art. She'd never expressed any opinion about Picasso, had never mentioned art at all during their brief previous interactions. But Victor seemed to know things about her that she'd never told him, seemed to have access to parts of her life that should have been private." The elderly couple exchanged worried glances, but remained trapped by social convention and fear. No one wanted to cross Victor Castellanos. No one wanted to acknowledge what was really happening. As the staff cleared dessert plates with military efficiency, Victor leaned closer to Amara, close enough that she could smell his cologne, expensive, masculine, aggressive. Close enough that his breath warmed her ear when he spoke. "Would you like to see the art collection? It's quite impressive." It wasn't really a question. Nothing Victor said tonight had been really questions. They were commands dressed up as invitations, traps disguised as courtesy. "I should probably return to the hotel," Amara replied. "Daniel will be worried if I'm too late." Victor's laugh was soft and knowing. "Oh, I don't think Daniel will be calling tonight. He's quite busy with those Orlando lawyers." The way he said it, casual, informed, satisfied, confirmed what she'd been afraid to admit. Daniel's emergency wasn't random. His absence tonight wasn't coincidental. Somehow, Victor had orchestrated her husband's disappearance, leaving her alone and vulnerable in a house full of people who were too scared to help her. In fact, Victor continued, his hand moving to rest on her bare shoulder, "I believe Daniel gave you specific instructions about tonight, about the dress, about making this evening memorable." His fingers traced the edge of the gown's neckline, a touch that lasted just long enough to cross every line of appropriate behavior while remaining technically innocent. The elderly couple pretended not to notice, staring at their coffee cups like they contained escape routes. Share your survival strategies below. When someone makes you complicit in your own vulnerability, when saying no feels impossible, but saying yes feels dangerous, what do? How do you fight back when the whole system is designed to make you powerless? "The art collection is in my private study," Victor said, standing and offering his hand. "Much more comfortable than this formal dining room. We can speak freely there." Amara looked around the table one final time, hoping for intervention that wasn't coming. The Montgomerys sat frozen in their chairs, understanding perfectly what was happening, but too terrified of consequences to object. She was on her own. As Victor's hand closed around hers, warm and possessive and completely wrong, she realized that the evening's real performance was just beginning. Everything up until now had been set up: the dress, the dinner, the careful elimination of witnesses. Now came the main event. Thunder rumbled outside as Victor led her toward the mansion's interior, away from the safety of public spaces and into rooms where no one would hear her if she screamed. The white silk gown whispered against marble floors like a countdown timer, marking seconds until she'd have to choose between survival and surrender. As they passed a hallway mirror, she caught a glimpse of herself, beautiful, elegant, terrified, and completely alone. The woman in the reflection looked like she was walking to her own execution. Behind them, she heard the elderly couple's hurried departure, car doors slamming, engine starting, the sound of the last witnesses fleeing before the storm broke. The mansion's front door closed with finality that echoed through empty halls. Outside, Miami's elite drove home to their safe beds and silent consciences, leaving behind a woman in white silk and a man who'd spent months planning this exact moment. Victor's private study awaited, along with art collections and wine selections and all the tools a predator needs to convince his prey that surrender is really seduction. But Amara McAllister had been underestimated before. and the night was far from over. She followed him to the balcony, thinking she was calling his bluff. She didn't realize she was walking into checkmate. Victor's private study was exactly what she'd expected. Leather-bound books that probably hadn't been read, abstract art that screamed expensive taste, and a wet bar stocked with bottles worth more than most people's annual salaries. But it was the balcony beyond the French doors that caught her attention, offering views of Biscayne Bay under a canopy of Miami stars. "The Picasso is remarkable," Victor said, gesturing toward a small canvas that looked like organized chaos. "But the real masterpiece is the view." He opened the doors to the terrace, letting in warm ocean air that carried the scent of salt and night-blooming jasmine. Miami's skyline glittered beyond the water like scattered jewels, while yacht lights dotted the bay like fireflies on dark water. "It's beautiful," Amara admitted, stepping onto the terrace despite every instinct telling her to stay inside where staff might interrupt, where escape routes remained visible. "Beauty should be appreciated," Victor replied, moving to stand beside her at the marble railing. "Protected, possessed by those who understand its value." The way he said "possessed" made her skin crawl. This wasn't admiration, it was ownership. The kind of attitude that treated women like investments, marriages like business mergers, and consent like a contract that could be negotiated. Have you ever been flattered by someone you knew was dangerous? Have you ever felt the terrible pull of someone who saw exactly what you needed to hear, even when you knew their motives were poison? "You know, I've been watching you for months," Victor continued, his voice dropping to intimate levels that felt wrong coming from someone who wasn't her husband. "Not stalking, researching, understanding, learning about the woman behind Daniel's success. Watching me." The words came out sharper than she intended. "Business requires thorough research," Victor said smoothly. "When I partner with someone, I want to understand all the variables, all of the motivations." He moved closer, close enough that she could feel heat radiating from his body, close enough that her fight-or-flight instinct started screaming. But she was trapped between Victor and the balcony railing, with nowhere to run that wouldn't involve pushing past him or jumping 20 feet to the gardens below. "I know about the sketches," he continued, his eyes never leaving her face. "The fashion designs you hide under your bed. The boutique chain you dream about opening. The conversations with Daniel about money, about taking risks, about whether his oil investments will ever provide enough security for children. Children. They'd never told anyone they were trying to start a family. Those conversations happened in their bedroom, in whispered hopes and private fears. How could Victor know about discussions that had never left their house? "I know about the fertility specialist appointments," Victor pressed on, reading her shock like a roadmap. "The tests that show everything's fine, that it's just a matter of timing and stress levels. I know about the medical bills that insurance doesn't cover, the pressure Daniel feels to provide more, faster." Her hands gripped the marble railing so tight her knuckles went white. This wasn't just invasion of privacy. This was systematic surveillance of their most intimate moments. Their bedroom conversations, medical records, private dreams, financial fears, all of it cataloged and weaponized by a man who collected information like other people collected art. What happens when someone offers you everything you think you're missing? When they know your dreams better than your husband does? When they promise solutions to problems you've barely admitted to yourself? "Your husband is a good man," Victor said, his tone suggesting this was somehow a flaw. "Honorable, conservative with money. The kind of man who builds wealth slowly, carefully, while opportunities pass by. Daniel provides for us just fine," Amara replied, but her voice lacked conviction. They both knew money was tight, that the oil business was unpredictable, that dreams of boutique chains and babies required resources they didn't quite have. "Of course he does," Victor agreed. "But providing is different from thriving. Different from having enough to chase dreams instead of just paying bills." He reached into his jacket and pulled out a leather portfolio, setting it on the marble railing between them. "I took the liberty of having some preliminary business plans drawn up. Based on your designs, of course." The portfolio fell open to reveal professional architectural renderings of boutique storefronts, financial projections for a high-end fashion chain, marketing strategies targeting exactly the demographic her designs were created for. It was her dream, perfectly realized, expensively presented, and completely terrifying. "How did you get my designs?" she whispered. "Does it matter?" Victor's smile was all teeth. "What matters is that someone finally recognizes their value. Someone with the resources to make them reality." The business plan was thorough, professional, and exactly what she'd been dreaming about for 3 years. Flagship store in South Beach, expansion to New York and Los Angeles. Her name on storefronts and business cards. Financial independence. Creative freedom. Everything she'd wanted but never dared to ask for. The initial investment would be $12 million. Victor continued casually, like he was discussing lunch plans. Enough to launch properly, with marketing budgets that ensure success rather than struggle. $12 million. More money than she'd see in several lifetimes of teaching and Daniel's oil investments combined. Enough to make her dreams reality instead of bedroom whispers. "What would you want in return?" she asked, though part of her already knew. Victor's laugh was soft and knowing. "Now you're asking the right questions." Miami's skyline glittered beyond the terrace like a promise of everything money could buy. Penthouses, yachts, private jets, the kind of life where dreams became realities and resources were never an issue. The bay stretched toward infinity, dark water reflecting city lights like scattered diamonds. Have you ever been tempted by someone who saw your dreams more clearly than your spouse did? When they promise to make your fantasies real, when they offer everything you've ever wanted, what price are you willing to pay? "I'm a married woman," Amara said firmly. "Marriage is a contract," Victor replied. "Contracts can be renegotiated." His hand moved to cover hers on the marble railing, warm skin against cold stone. The touch lasted longer than courtesy, carrying implications that made her pulse race for all the wrong reasons. "One weekend," he said quietly. 3 days in the Bahamas, while Daniel handles some urgent business in Texas. No obligations beyond companionship. No promises beyond mutual enjoyment. And when you return, the contracts are signed, the funding is transferred, and your boutique empire begins. The proposal hung between them like a loaded gun, beautiful and terrible and completely wrong. 3 days of her life in exchange for everything she'd ever dreamed of having. Her body is collateral for her husband's business success and her own creative freedom. "Think about it," Victor said, his thumb brushing across her knuckles in a gesture that could have been comfort but felt like claiming. "Daniel need never know. He benefits from the business partnership. You get your fashion empire, and I get 3 days with the most fascinating woman in Miami." As if summoned by her growing panic, her phone buzzed with a text message. Daniel's number, but the timing felt too convenient, too perfectly orchestrated. Emergency resolved. Staying in Orlando overnight to finalize everything. "See you tomorrow evening. Trust Victor. He's taking good care of you." The message confirmed her worst fears. Daniel wasn't coming to rescue her. He wasn't even planning to call. Somehow, Victor had engineered her husband's absence, leaving her alone and vulnerable with a man who'd been planning this seduction for months. "He trusts me with his most precious possession," Victor said, reading the text over her shoulder. "The question is, do you trust yourself?" Thunder rumbled across Biscayne Bay as storm clouds gathered on the horizon, promising rain and wind and the kind of weather that trapped people indoors together. Victor's cologne mixed with ocean air and night-blooming jasmine, creating an atmosphere that felt designed for bad decisions and worse consequences. When he produced the contracts, detailed, professional, her name already typed in the signature fields, she realized how long this moment had been planned. How carefully he'd studied her weaknesses, her dreams, her marriage's vulnerable points. "I've been waiting for the right moment," he said. Daniel's absence tonight isn't coincidence. The ocean breeze carried the scent of jasmine and danger. Her phone buzzed with another text from Daniel. "I'm sorry. I never meant for this to happen." The pieces clicked together like a puzzle she'd been too trusting to see. Daniel knew. He'd known what Victor wanted, what kind of man he was dealing with. The emergency call, the timing, the way he'd insisted she stay for the charity gala. It was all part of some sick arrangement. You're both crazy if you think I'm signing anything, she said, backing toward the sliding doors. Victor's laugh was soft, almost gentle. Amara, sweetheart, you haven't heard my offer yet. That boutique chain you've been dreaming about, the fashion line with your name on it, I can make all of it happen by next month. Her breath caught. He'd done his homework. Those dreams were private, shared only with Daniel during late-night conversations about their future. And if I refuse, Daniel loses the hotel deal. His investors pull out. Those gambling debts he's been hiding from you, they come due immediately. Victor stepped closer, his cologne mixing with the night air. But more importantly, you'll spend the rest of your life wondering what you could have become if you'd just been brave enough to take what you deserve. The contracts fluttered in the breeze between them. Her signature lines stared back at her, blank and waiting. Have you ever stood at the edge of your dreams and realized the price was higher than you'd imagined? Tell me in the comments what you would do. At 2 a.m., she stood by the infinity pool in her silk gown, tears mixing with chlorine mist, finally understanding the game she'd been playing. The water reflected the Miami skyline like broken glass, each light a reminder of how far from home she'd traveled in one night. Her bare feet touched the pool's edge, warm concrete still holding the day's heat while her heart felt frozen. Victor approached slowly, a silk robe loose around his shoulders. You've been out here for an hour. The night air isn't good for that beautiful dress. This dress was a trap, she said without turning around. Just like everything else tonight. It was a gift. There's a difference. She laughed, but it sounded more like crying. A gift comes without conditions. This came with expectations I never agreed to. What did Daniel tell you about our business arrangement? The question hung between them like smoke. She could lie, pretend ignorance, but what was the point now? He said you were funding a hotel project. He said it would secure our future. He didn't mention the personal guarantees, the collateral he put up. Her stomach dropped. What collateral? Victor moved to stand beside her, close enough that she could feel his body heat. Your marriage certificate. Your house in Atlanta, his share in the oil wells his father left him. And when all of that wasn't enough to cover his losses, he paused, letting the silence stretch. He offered something more valuable. The words hit her like cold water. He wouldn't. Men do desperate things when they're drowning in debt. Amara. Daniel owes money to people who don't accept payment plans. The kind of people who make problems disappear permanently. She gripped the pool's edge, knuckles white against the stone. You're lying. Am I? Victor pulled out his phone, showed her a series of text messages. Daniel's number, Daniel's words, whatever it takes to keep her safe. Just don't hurt her. The messages were dated 3 weeks ago, before the Miami trip, before the emergency call. He made a deal to save both your lives. The debt disappears. You get the fashion empire you've always wanted, and all it costs is one night of your time. Some women would call that the bargain of a lifetime. The pool's surface rippled from her tears. Everything she believed about their marriage, about Daniel's protection, about this whole nightmare, it all crumbled like sand castles at high tide. And what do you call it? She asked. Victor's hand touched her bare shoulder, warm and gentle and completely terrifying. I call it the moment you stop being Daniel's wife and start being your own woman. The silk gown clung to her skin like a second judgment. She could feel his eyes on her, waiting for her decision, measuring her resistance. Have you ever realized you were in deeper trouble than you imagined? When everyone you trust has been playing a game you didn't know existed. Drop your thoughts below. What happens if I say no? Daniel's body gets found in a Miami parking lot tomorrow morning. Drug deal gone wrong, the police will say. Very sad. These things happen to tourists who don't know the city. The threat was delivered like he was discussing the weather. Casual, certain. And if I say yes, you spend a few hours making me happy. Daniel's debts vanish like they never existed, and you both fly home to start your new lives. Plus, I write you a check that turns those fashion dreams into reality. She closed her eyes, feeling the ocean breeze against her face. When she opened them again, Victor was holding a contract and a pen. The choice is yours, beautiful, but choose quickly. My patience has limits. Her phone buzzed with another text from Daniel. I love you more than my own life. Please forgive me. The message told her everything. He knew. He'd always known. She took the pen from Victor's hand, her fingers steady despite everything falling apart inside her chest. "Turn off the cameras first," she whispered. Victor's smile was sharp as broken glass. "There are no cameras, darling." But Amara was counting on his lie. She had 30 seconds to decide. Destroy her marriage or destroy her husband. Because saving both was never an option Victor intended to offer. The master bedroom felt like a stage set for surrender. Every detail calculated to break her resistance. Silk sheets the color of champagne, lights dimmed to golden shadows, the scent of expensive candles mixing with ocean air through open windows. Victor moved around the room like he owned it, which he did. Owned the house, owned the situation, thought he owned her. "You're trembling," he said, pouring champagne into crystal glasses. "There's nothing to be afraid of." But fear wasn't what made her hands shake. It was rage. Pure, white-hot anger at Daniel for putting her here, at Victor for thinking she was merchandise, at herself for not seeing the trap until it closed around her. "How many other wives have you brought to this room?" she asked. His pause told her everything. "You're not the first woman to face difficult choices, if that's what you're asking." "That's exactly what I'm asking." Victor handed her the champagne, his fingers brushing hers deliberately. "Some marriages are stronger than others. Some women are more adaptable." The word made her skin crawl. And the ones who weren't adaptable? Their husbands found other ways to pay their debts. She thought about the text messages, about Daniel waiting somewhere in Miami, thinking he'd saved her by sacrificing her. About all the other women who'd stood in this room, faced this same choice, made their decision based on love or fear or desperation. "What makes you think I'll be different?" Victor's smile was predatory. "Because you're here. Because you took the pen. Because you're still talking instead of running." He was right. She could have screamed, could have run, could have called the police. Instead, she was standing in his bedroom, holding champagne, wearing a gown he'd chosen for this exact moment. "I want to see the contract first. The real one." Victor raised an eyebrow, but moved to the bedside drawer. He pulled out a folder thick with documents, business plans, financial projections, legal papers with her name already typed in multiple places. She flipped through pages of her own dreams, written in legalese. A fashion boutique chain spanning 5 states. Exclusive designer partnerships. Marketing budgets that would make her a household name in 3 years. "This is worth millions," she whispered. "Your talent is worth millions. I'm just providing the infrastructure." Have you ever been offered everything you wanted by someone you knew was dangerous? When your dreams come with strings attached to your soul? Tell me in the comments. And Daniel's debts? Wipe clean. All of them. Plus, he gets to keep his oil investments and your house in Atlanta. She set the champagne down untouched. "Show me proof of the debts." Victor's expression shifted slightly. "I don't think. Show me, or I walk out of this room right now." For the first time all night, she had leverage. He needed her compliance more than she needed his approval. Victor pulled out another folder. Bank statements, loan documents, casino receipts, payment demand from people with names that sounded like characters from crime movies. The numbers made her dizzy. Daniel owed more money than their house was worth, more than his business could generate in 5 years. Some of the debts were recent, but others went back months, even before they'd met Victor. "He's been gambling," she said, the words tasting bitter. "Texas oil money burns fast when you bet on the wrong horses." Literally. She thought about Daniel's weekend trips, the ones he'd called business meetings, the phone calls he'd taken in private, walking into the backyard where she couldn't hear, the way he'd been pushing her fashion dreams lately, asking questions about what she'd need to start her own company. He'd been planning this for months. Not the betrayal, the sacrifice. In his mind, he was saving her from poverty and himself from a violent death. The silk gown suddenly felt like armor instead of trap. "I need you to understand something," she said, meeting Victor's eyes directly. "I'm not doing this for you. I'm not doing this for the money. I'm doing this because my husband is an idiot who thinks love means making decisions for me instead of with me." Victor's smile returned. "The reason doesn't matter to me, beautiful. Only the result." She moved toward the bed, each step deliberate and calculated. Then let me be very clear about the result you're going to get. The gown's silk whispered against her skin as she let one strap fall from her shoulder. You're going to get exactly what you paid for. No more, no less. And when morning comes, we're both going to remember that this was a business transaction, not a seduction. Victor's breathing changed as the second strap slipped down. Whatever helps you sleep at night. But as the dress pulled around her feet, Amara was already planning how she'd make sure Victor never slept peacefully again. She gave him everything he thought he wanted and used his satisfaction against him like a weapon. The bedroom became a theater of deception, where every moan was calculated and every touch was gathering intelligence. Victor thought he was taking something from her, but Amara was busy taking everything from him. "You're incredible," she whispered against his ear, meaning every word, just not the way he heard it. Her fingers traced patterns across his chest, while her mind memorized the contents of his bedside drawer. 3 phones, a small digital recorder, keys to what looked like a boat, and something that made her blood run cold, a photo of another woman in what looked like the same room. Victor's hands moved over her skin with practiced confidence, the touch of a man who'd done this before, who had this choreographed to his satisfaction. But while he focused on her body's responses, she focused on his weaknesses. "Tell me about your other business deals," she breathed between kisses, making it sound like pillow talk. "Nothing as beautiful as this one," he murmured against her neck. She arched beneath him exactly as he wanted, letting him think he was driving her wild while she cataloged every detail of the room. The painting that hung crooked, probably hiding a safe. The bookshelf with one section that looked newer than the rest. The window that opened onto a balcony with a clear view of the marina. "Daniel said you help lots of men with their financial problems." Victor's laugh rumbled through his chest. Daniel talks too much, but he was the one talking now, his guard lowered by wine and what he thought was her surrender. He told her about other deals, other arrangements, other men who'd found themselves in impossible situations with impossible solutions. She counted 12 different stories, 12 other husbands, 12 other wives. "Some of them come back," he said, his voice heavy with satisfaction. "They find out regular marriage is boring after a taste of real excitement." Her stomach turned, but she kept her expression dreamy, satisfied. "Do you keep in touch with them?" "I keep in touch with everyone. Beautiful. It's how business works." His phone buzzed on the nightstand. In the blue light of the screen, she caught a glimpse of a name, Maria, Houston. Another wife. Another woman trapped in the same web. Victor silenced the phone, but not before she memorized the number. "Ignore it," he said, his attention returning to her. "Tonight is about us." "Of course," she agreed, her hands finding the sensitive spot at the base of his neck that made him groan. "Just us." But as he lost himself in physical pleasure, she was busy planning psychological warfare. When he finally collapsed beside her, breathing hard and wearing the satisfied expression of a man who thought he'd conquered something precious, she curled against his chest like a contented cat. "That was..." She paused, as if searching for words. "Worth the wait," he suggested, his ego practically glowing. "Life-changing," she said truthfully, because it was, just not in any way he could imagine. Have you ever had to be someone you weren't to protect someone you loved? When survival looks like surrender, but you're actually gathering ammunition. Share your thoughts below. Victor's breathing deepened towards sleep, his arm possessive around her waist. She waited 20 minutes, counting each breath, before carefully extracting herself from his embrace. The yacht keys were in his jacket pocket, just as she'd hoped. The security system code was written on a sticky note inside his wallet. Conquest. The 3 phones each had different contact lists, business associates, government officials, and what looked like a catalog of previous arrangements. She photographed everything with her own phone, working by moonlight filtering through the open windows. The safe behind the crooked painting opened with the same code. Inside, she found contracts, photos, recordings, and a detailed ledger of every transaction Victor had ever made. Every husband's debt, every wife's price, every politician's payment. She photographed it all, her hand steady despite the evidence of years of systematic abuse spread before her. When she slipped back into bed beside Victor, he stirred only slightly, pulling her closer in his sleep. "Sweet dreams," she whispered against his shoulder. But she had work to do before sunrise, and Victor's nightmares were just beginning. She left the diamond necklace on purpose, not as surrender, but as a declaration of war. The yacht cut through pre-dawn waters like a silver blade, Miami's lights fading behind her as she steered towards salvation or deeper trouble. Victor's jacket hung loose around her naked shoulders, the keys still warm from his pocket, while her phone uploaded the last of his files to a secure cloud server. The marina had been easier to navigate than she'd expected. Growing up on Georgia's coast had taught her to read water and wind, to handle boats in conditions that would terrify most people. Now that childhood skill was her lifeline. Behind her, Victor's waterfront mansion glowed like a fortress of secrets. By now, he'd probably discovered her absence, probably found the empty safe, probably realized that his carefully orchestrated night had become his worst nightmare. Her phone buzzed with the first angry call. She let go to voicemail. The second call came 30 seconds later, then the third. On the fourth call, she answered. "You have something that belongs to me." Victor's voice was tight with controlled fury. "You have something that belongs to me too," she replied, steering around a navigation buoy. "My dignity, my choice, my husband's freedom. Seems like we're even. You don't understand what you're playing with, Amara. Those files you took, they implicate people who don't forgive and forget. Good thing I'm not asking for forgiveness." The yacht's engine purred beneath her feet, steady and reliable. In the distance, she could see the lights of other boats, early morning fishing vessels, and Coast Guard patrol craft. "Bring back what you stole, and we can pretend tonight never happened." She laughed, and it felt good to let the sound carry over the water. "Tonight happened, Victor, but not the way you planned it. I gave you everything you wanted. You gave me exactly what I needed to destroy you." The silence on the other end stretched long enough that she checked to see if the call had dropped. "Daniel's still in Miami," he finally said. "Still in danger." "Daniel's at the airport," she replied. "Has been since midnight." Amazing what you can accomplish when you're not actually unconscious from drug wine. Another silence. She'd surprised him again. "You knew. I suspected. Daniel's many things, but he's not that good of an actor." The emergency call was too convenient, his goodbye kiss too desperate, his text messages too perfectly timed. Have you ever discovered that the person you thought betrayed you was actually trying to save you? That revelation changes everything. Tell me about it in the comments. She steered toward the Coast Guard vessel that was now moving in her direction, its searchlight sweeping the water. "We set this up together," she continued. "The moment we realized what kind of man you really were. Daniel made sure the emergency was fake, made sure he'd be safely away from your reach when everything went down. You played me. We learned from the best." The Coast Guard boat was close enough now that she could see the officers on deck. She waved, signaling distress. "Those files will destroy innocent people," Victor said. "The only innocent people in your files are the victims, and they deserve justice. You're making a mistake." She ended the call and immediately dialed 911. "This is Amara McAllister. I'm on a stolen yacht 3 miles south of the port of Miami, and I have evidence of a human trafficking operation that needs immediate federal attention." The Coast Guard boat pulled alongside hers just as the sun broke the horizon, painting the water gold and pink and beautiful. As they helped her aboard, wrapping her in a blanket while she still clutched Victor's jacket and the phone full of evidence, she thought about the other women in those files. The ones who hadn't escaped, who'd been broken by the system Victor had built. "Ma'am, are you injured?" the Coast Guard captain asked. "No," she said, watching Victor's yacht appear on the horizon, racing toward them in a desperate attempt to catch her. "But I'm about to change a lot of lives." The captain followed her gaze. "That boat's been reported stolen. By the man who's been stealing women for years," she replied. "I think it's time someone stole something back." As Victor's yacht was intercepted by federal agents, Amara finally allowed herself to smile. The war was just beginning, but the first battle was hers. Daniel found her on a Miami beach at sunrise, still wearing Victor's jacket and carrying evidence that would destroy them all or set them free. The beach stretched empty in dawn light, waves erasing yesterday's footprints while two people decided whether to build new ones together. She saw him jogging toward her from the parking area, his face a mixture of relief and terror. "I heard the Coast Guard radio chatter," he said, breathing hard as he reached her. "Are you hurt?" "Did he?" "I'm fine," she cut him off. "Better than fine." Daniel stopped 3 feet away, as if afraid to get closer. "I know how this looks. I know what you must think of me." She studied his face in the growing daylight. The man she'd married looked older, worn down by secrets and impossible choices. "Tell me why." The gambling started small. Just weekend trips, try and make back what I'd lost on bad oil investments. But it got bigger, and the people I owed weren't banks. They were the kind of people who collect debts with baseball bats and shallow graves. She nodded, having seen the evidence in Victor's files. "When did Victor approach you?" 6 months ago. He said he had a solution, a way to clear everything and set us up for life. I thought he meant a business partnership. "When did you realize what he really wanted?" Daniel's voice cracked. 3 weeks ago. He spelled it out clearly. "One night with my wife. We're both of us dead within the week." The waves lapped at their feet, warm water and soft sand, while they talked about the hardest night of their marriage. "So you made the deal." "I made a plan," he corrected. "The emergency call was fake. I stayed at the airport hotel, working with FBI agents who'd been tracking Victor for months. They needed someone on the inside, someone who could get close enough to gather evidence." She pulled the phone from a jacket pocket, showing him the hundreds of photos she'd taken. Evidence like this. Daniel's eyes widened as he scrolled through images of contracts, victim lists, financial records. "How did you get all this?" "While you were playing bait, I was playing spy. Turns out your wife is pretty good at thinking on her feet when her husband's life depends on it." For the first time since he'd reached her, Daniel smiled. "You went into his bedroom. I did what had to be done. And you got everything we needed to put him away forever." She took the phone back, looking at the evidence that would reshape dozens of lives. "We got everything we needed to save a lot more than just ourselves." They stood there as the sun climbed higher, two people who'd been through hell together and somehow found their way out the other side. "I should have told you the plan," Daniel said. "Should have trusted you enough to include you from the beginning." "Yes, you should have. Can you forgive me?" Have you ever had to explain the unthinkable to someone you love? When protecting them meant lying to them, and saving them meant risking everything. Tell me how you'd handle it in the comments. She considered the question seriously. Daniel had made decisions without her, had put her in danger to save them both, had gambled with her safety and her agency. But he'd also loved her enough to risk his own life, had worked with federal agents to bring down a predator, had trusted her strength even when he couldn't trust her with the truth. "I can forgive you," she said finally, "but things have to change between us. No more decisions about my life made without me. No more protecting me by lying to me." "Deal," he said immediately. "And you're getting help for the gambling. Real help. Professional help. Already set up." The FBI recommended counselors who specialize in financial addiction. She nodded, then stepped closer, close enough to see the exhaustion and hope warring in his eyes. "And one more thing. Anything. Next time someone threatens our marriage, we face them together. As partners, not as protector and victim." Daniel's arms came around her carefully, as if she might disappear again. "I love you, Amar McAllister. I love your strength, your intelligence, your courage. I love that you saved us both when I couldn't figure out how to save either of us. I love you too," she said against his chest. "But I love us more. The real us, the honest us, the partnership we're going to build going forward." They kissed as the beach filled with morning joggers and dog walkers. Two people reclaiming their lives in public sunshine instead of private shadow. "What happens now?" Daniel asked. She looked toward the marina, where federal agents were still processing Victor's arrest and the evidence she'd provided. "Now we testify. We help put away a monster in his network. We make sure no other couple goes through what we just survived. And after that, we go home to Georgia and start over. Together this time. Equal partners in everything." As they walked back toward the parking area, Hand in hand, her phone buzzed with a call from an unknown number. "Maria," a woman's voice said when she answered. "This is Special Agent Rodriguez with the FBI. We understand you have information about Victor Castellanos and his associates." Amara looked at Daniel, who squeezed her hand encouragingly. "Yes," she said, "I have quite a lot of information. When do you want to start?" The reckoning was just beginning, but for the first time in months, the future looked brighter than the past. 6 months later, they thought they were building a new life in California. They had no idea they were walking into Act 2 of Victor's revenge. The Malibu house sat on cliffs above the Pacific like a fortress of glass and steel. Every morning, Daniel would make coffee while Amara sketched designs for her boutique, both of them pretending the nightmares had stopped. Both of them pretending they didn't check the locks twice before bed. Have you ever tried to rebuild your life after it exploded? That's what Daniel and Amara were doing, piece by careful piece. Her fashion line was taking off. His oil investments were recovering. They'd even started talking about kids again. But healing isn't linear. Some nights, Amara would wake up gasping, still feeling silk against her skin. Some days, Daniel would get quiet when business calls came in, remembering how trust had nearly destroyed everything. "We're different people now," Amara said one evening, her head on his chest as waves crashed below their bedroom window. The sound used to scare her. Too much like Miami's ocean. Now it felt like protection. "Better or worse?" Daniel asked, his fingers tracing patterns on her bare shoulder. "Stronger, more careful, more honest." She lifted her head to meet his eyes. "We don't take anything for granted anymore." Their love had changed texture. Where it used to be comfortable, now it was intense. Where it used to be trusting, now it was chosen daily. They made love like people who'd almost lost everything. Desperate, grateful, claiming each other with an intensity that felt like worship. "I love you more now," she whispered after they'd moved together in perfect rhythm, sweat cooling on skin that had survived too much. "That's crazy, right? After everything." "Not crazy." His voice was rough with emotion. "We know what we're worth now, what we'll fight for." The boutique on Rodeo Drive was everything she dreamed of. Clean lines, natural light, clothes that made women feel powerful instead of displayed. Daniel had insisted on the best security system money could buy, but months passed without incident. They started to relax. That was their mistake. The first sign was subtle. Cars that seemed to follow her route to work. Always different vehicles, always keeping their distance. Daniel said she was being paranoid. Maybe she was. The second sign was the break-in at the boutique. Nothing stolen, nothing obviously disturbed. Just the feeling that someone had been there, touching her things, learning her patterns. The third sign came at 3 a.m. on a Tuesday. The security alarm screamed through their bedroom like a banshee. Daniel grabbed the gun from his nightstand, a new addition to their life, while Amara called the police. They raced to the boutique expecting shattered glass, empty registers, destroyed inventory. Instead, they found something worse. Nothing was missing. The cash register was untouched. The expensive dresses hung exactly where they belonged. But in her private office, hanging from the ceiling like a ghost, was a single white silk gown. The same cut as Miami. The same fabric. The same message. Attached to the hanger was a note in familiar handwriting. "Some performances deserve an encore." Amara's hands shook as she read it. The police found no evidence of forced entry. No fingerprints. No surveillance footage. The cameras had been disabled with professional precision. "It's not possible," Daniel said, pacing the office like a caged animal. "Victor's in federal prison. Maximum security. He can't. He doesn't have to." Amara's voice was steady, but her eyes held knowledge that made Daniel's stomach drop. "Remember what he said at the trial? About having friends we couldn't imagine? Have you ever felt safe until you remembered that some people play longer games than you thought possible?" That's what was happening to them. Victor's arrest had been the beginning of their story, not the end. The gown hung there like a promise, like a threat, like a reminder that some men don't forgive being beaten, especially by women who refuse to stay victims. "We could run again," Daniel suggested, but his voice lacked conviction. They'd built something beautiful here, something that was theirs. No. Amara touched the silk with one finger, her jaw setting in a way Daniel recognized. Running didn't work the first time. It just gave him more time to plan. Then what? She turned from the gown to face him, and Daniel saw the woman who'd outsmarted a predator, stolen his evidence, and testified before Congress. The woman who'd saved them both and dozens of others. Now we find out who's still playing his game. And we end it for good. Do you ever wonder if surviving something terrible just makes you a target for the next terrible thing? Or does it make you strong enough to face whatever comes next? Drop your thoughts below. Because Amara and Daniel were about to find out which one was true. Victor Castellanos wasn't just one sick man. He was the tip of an iceberg that had been sinking marriages for decades. Agent Sarah Chun from the FBI sat across from Daniel and Amara in their Malibu living room. Files spread across their coffee table like evidence of a war they didn't know they'd been fighting. We've been tracking Victor's associates since his conviction, Agent Chun explained, her voice professional but kind. What we found was bigger than we imagined. He wasn't working alone. He was part of a network. The files contained photos, bank records, and testimonies that made Amara's stomach turn. Dozens of wealthy men, hundreds of targeted couples. A systematic operation that had been running for over 15 years. They call themselves the Acquisition Club, Chun continued. Rich men who get bored with their own wives and decide to collect others. They share information, resources, techniques. Victor was their most successful recruiter. Have you ever discovered that what happened to you was part of something much bigger? That's what Amara was processing as Agent Chun laid out the scope of their investigation. She wasn't Victor's only victim. She was just his most famous failure. How many? Daniel's voice was tight with controlled rage. We've identified at least 47 couples who were targeted. 18 divorces that we can directly link to their operations. 5 suspicious deaths of husbands who tried to expose them. Agent Chun paused. And 3 wives who simply disappeared. Amara reached for Daniel's hand. The silk gown suddenly made perfect sense. This wasn't about Victor's personal revenge. It was about the network reclaiming their reputation. They're coming for us because we made them look weak, Amara realized aloud. Victor going to prison, the testimony, the other victims coming forward, we damaged their business model. Exactly. And now they want to make an example of you both. The next revelation hit even harder. Agent Chun slid a photograph across the table. Security footage from a restaurant in Beverly Hills. The image showed a woman Amara recognized immediately. Rebecca Martinez, Chun said. She was Victor's victim 3 years ago. Her husband Richard tried to expose the network after she spent a weekend with Victor's associate in Las Vegas. I remember her, Amara breathed. Rebecca had reached out after the trial, wanting to thank her for speaking up. They'd had coffee twice, shared stories, built what Amara thought was friendship. She's been feeding them information about your routines, your security measures, your emotional state. The betrayal hit like ice water. Rebecca had seemed so genuine, so grateful. She'd cried when talking about her destroyed marriage, her husband's depression, their slow recovery. She's not evil, Agent Chun added quickly, seeing Amara's expression. She's compromised. They have recordings of her weekend in Vegas. Video evidence that could destroy what's left of her marriage. She's being blackmailed. Do you see how these predators work? They don't just hurt you once. They turn your pain into a weapon against others. They make victims into accomplices, survivors into threats. What do they want? Daniel asked. Same thing they always want. Complete control. They want you to disappear quietly. Stop encouraging other victims to come forward. Let their business continue as usual. And if we don't, Agent Chun's silence was answer enough. That night, as they lay in bed with new security guards outside their door, Daniel held Amara closer than usual. We could take the FBI's offer, he whispered against her hair. Witness protection, new identities, start over somewhere else. As who? People too scared to be ourselves. As people who stay alive. Amara pulled back to look at his face in the moonlight. Do you remember what you told me in that Miami hotel room before all this started? You said we'd face whatever came together. I didn't know it would keep coming. Neither did I, but here we are. She traced his jawline with gentle fingers. Those 47 couples Chin mentioned, most of them are still trapped, still afraid, still being controlled. That's not our responsibility, isn't it? Her voice was soft, but unwavering. We survived. We won. We have a platform, resources, connections. If we run now, what happens to everyone else? Have you ever had to choose between your safety and doing what's right for others? That's the hardest choice anyone can face. Because the right choice isn't always the safe choice. Daniel was quiet for a long time. When he spoke, his voice held resignation and pride in equal measure. What do you want to do? I want to finish what we started. She kissed him softly, tasting salt from tears she hadn't realized were falling. But I need to know you're with me. Not protecting me, not following me, with me. As partners. Always. They made love that night, like people preparing for war. Tender and fierce, grateful and determined. Every touch was a promise. Every kiss a commitment to whatever came next. The next morning brought news that changed everything. Agent Chun called at dawn. Rebecca Martinez is dead. Apparent suicide. She left a note confessing her involvement and naming 3 other network members. Apparent. Amara caught the word immediately. People don't usually shoot themselves twice in the head, Mrs. McAllister. Rebecca was going to testify for us. Someone made sure she couldn't. The network wasn't just threatening them anymore. They were killing to protect themselves. The war was no longer coming. It was here. Tell me in the comments. When fighting back means risking everything again, do you run or do you stand? Because Amara and Daniel were about to make that choice for the final time. She walked into that federal courthouse knowing that every word she spoke could either destroy the network forever or get her husband killed. The morning had started with a phone call that changed everything. Daniel's been poisoned. Agent Chin's voice was tight with urgency. Same compound we found in 3 other husbands who tried to expose the network. He's unconscious. Critical condition. Amara stood in their Malibu bathroom, still wearing the black suit she'd chosen for her testimony, watching her reflection fragment into pieces. The network had made their final move. If I testify today, do they kill him? Her voice was steadier than she felt. If you don't testify, they kill him anyway. And you, and anyone else who threatens them. Agent Chin paused. But if you do testify, if we get these arrests, we can protect him. The network loses its power when its members are behind bars. Have you ever had to speak truth when the stakes were life and death? That's what Amara faced as she walked up those courthouse steps, cameras flashing, reporters shouting questions she couldn't answer. Inside, the courtroom felt like a gladiator arena. Network members sat in expensive suits, their wives beside them looking either clueless or complicit. Other victims filled the gallery, women who'd found courage in Amara's story, men who'd lost everything to these predators. The prosecutor, Maria Santos, squeezed Amara's hand. You don't have to do this alone. Remember, every word you speak gives someone else permission to speak their truth too. When Amara took the witness stand, the room fell silent. Every face turned toward her, some hungry for justice, others desperate for her silence. Mrs. McAllister, Prosecutor Santos began, please tell the court about your experience with Victor Castellanos and his associates. Amara looked directly at the defense table where 3 network members sat. Men who looked like successful businessmen, philanthropists, community leaders. Men who collected wives like trophies and destroyed families like it was a hobby. They don't see women as people, she began, her voice carrying clearly through the courtroom. We're challenges to be conquered, objects to be acquired, problems to be solved. They study us like scientists study lab rats. Learning our weaknesses, mapping our desires, finding exactly what pressure to apply to make us break. Her testimony detailed the psychological warfare, how they targeted couples with financial stress, marital problems, unfulfilled dreams, how they positioned themselves as solutions while creating deeper problems. Victor didn't seduce me, she continued, meeting the eyes of women in the gallery. He studied my marriage for months. He learned what I felt was missing, what made me vulnerable, what my husband couldn't give me. Then he offered to fill those exact gaps. Do you see the evil genius of it? They don't just want your body, they want your soul. They want you to choose betrayal, to participate in your own destruction. He made me feel special while making me feel trapped, desired while making me feel worthless. He convinced me that one night of compromise could save my marriage, when really it was designed to destroy everything I loved. The defense attorney tried to rattle her. Mrs. McAllister, isn't it true that you willingly engaged in intimate relations with my client? That you benefited financially from his attention? That your husband's business troubles were solved through this arrangement? The questions were designed to shame her, to make her the villain in her own story. Yes, I slept with Victor Castellanos. The courtroom stirred at her directness. I also stole his files, escaped on his yacht, and gathered evidence that exposed his entire operation. I played his game better than he did, and that's why I'm here testifying while he's in federal prison. The gallery erupted in whispers and a few scattered claps that the judge quickly silenced. But Amara wasn't finished. You want to know what I learned that night in Miami? I learned that survival sometimes looks like surrender, that intelligence sometimes looks like submission, that the strongest thing a woman can do is let a predator think he's won, while she's actually gathering the ammunition to destroy him. Her phone buzzed with a text from the hospital. Daniel was awake, asking for her. The relief made her voice stronger. These men prey on love. They target couples who care about each other because love makes people vulnerable. They exploit our devotion, our dreams, our willingness to sacrifice for the people we cherish. She looked directly at the network members, but they made one mistake. They underestimated what people who truly love each other will do to protect that love. The testimony continued for 3 hours. Other victims spoke. Evidence was presented. Bank records, communications, surveillance footage, all the proof Agent Chin's team had gathered. As Amara stepped down from the witness stand, one of the network members, a man named Harrison Cole, leaned forward and whispered something that made her blood freeze. Your husband won't survive the night. Neither will you. But Agent Chun had heard it too. Within minutes, Cole was in handcuffs, his threat recorded, his protection revoked. That evening, Amara sat beside Daniel's hospital bed, holding his hand as he slept off the poison's effects. The doctors said he'd make a full recovery. The network's final gambit had failed. Agent Chun knocked softly on the door. The jury's back, guilty on all charges. 47 counts of conspiracy, extortion, and accessory to murder. The network is finished. All of them. 18 arrests across 6 states. Their offshore accounts frozen. Their communication networks shut down. It's over, Amara. You did it. But victories like this come with costs. As Amara kissed Daniel's forehead, she wondered if they'd ever feel truly safe again. If love could survive being weaponized. If trust could be rebuilt from ashes. What would you risk to make sure other families never face what yours survived? Tell me in the comments, because that question was about to define the rest of their lives. They won. Victor's network crumbled, justice was served, but victory came with scars that would mark them forever. Daniel's recovery took 3 months, not just from the poison, but from the psychological weight of knowing he'd been moments from death while his wife fought for both their lives in a federal courthouse. I should have been there with you, he said one afternoon, sitting in their Malibu garden where the Pacific breeze carried away the heaviness of their words. You were there with me. Amara's fingers traced the wedding ring she'd never stopped wearing, even during her darkest Miami moments. Every word I spoke for us. Every truth I told because of what we built together. The network's collapse had made headlines for weeks. 18 powerful men facing federal charges. Dozens of families finally free from years of manipulation and terror. But media attention came with its own dangers. Interview requests flooded in. Book deals. Movie rights. Everyone wanted to own pieces of their story to profit from their pain. We could write our own book, Daniel suggested. Tell our way. Help other couples recognize the warning signs. Or we could disappear, Amara countered. Change our names. Move somewhere nobody knows our faces. Live quietly. Have you ever won a battle, but wondered if the war was worth fighting? That's what they grappled with as spring turned to summer in their clifftop sanctuary. The nightmares had mostly stopped, but hypervigilance remained. Daniel couldn't take business meetings without researching everyone involved. Amara couldn't go to social events without analyzing every conversation for hidden agendas. "We're different people," she said one night after making love with desperate tenderness, their bodies relearning safety in each other's arms. Better or worse? Harder, softer, more careful, more fierce. She kissed the scar on his chest where the four had been during his poisoning recovery. "We know things about ourselves now that we never wanted to learn." Their relationship had been forged in crisis and tempered by survival. Where other couples had casual disagreements, they had conversations loaded with the weight of life and death decisions they'd made together. But there was beauty in the intensity too. They didn't take lazy Sunday mornings for granted. They didn't assume tomorrow would come. They loved each other with the desperation of people who'd almost lost everything and the gratitude of people who'd fought to keep it. "I want to have a baby," Amara said one evening as they watched the sunset paint the ocean in shades of gold and pink. Now, after everything, because of everything, she turned to face him, her eyes bright with tears and determination. "They try to destroy our love, Daniel. They try to poison our marriage, corrupt our trust, steal our future. What if we created something beautiful from all that ugliness? What if we brought a life into the world that exists because we refused to let them win?" The idea terrified and thrilled him in equal measure. 6 months later, Amara stood before a congressional subcommittee on domestic terrorism, her pregnancy just starting to show beneath a navy dress she designed herself. The network's trial had revealed how many powerful men had been involved, how much money had changed hands, how many lives had been destroyed. The acquisition club operated for 15 years, she told the lawmakers. They targeted over 200 couples that we know of. They caused at least 37 divorces, contributed to 12 suicides, and were directly responsible for 5 murders. Also, rich men could collect wives like hunting trophies. The legislation that emerged from her testimony, the Marital Protection Act, made psychological coercion in extramarital situations a federal crime. It created resources for targeted couples and established task forces to identify similar networks. "You're changing the world," Agent Shin told her after the hearing. "Other victims are finding their voices because you found yours first." But changing the world came with costs. Death threats arrived weekly. Security remained constant. Their Malibu address was leaked online, forcing them to move to a compound in Montana where privacy was easier to maintain. "Do you regret it?" Daniel asked one snowy evening as Amara's belly grew round with their daughter. "Fighting back? Never. But I regret what it cost us. The simplicity we'll never have again. The innocence we can't give our children. What can we give them? Truth, courage, the knowledge that love is worth fighting for, even when the fight changes you." Their daughter was born on a crisp October morning, healthy and loud and perfect. They named her Grace. For the gift of survival, for the mercy of second chances, for the strength they'd found in each other. "She'll grow up knowing her parents are heroes," the nurse said, adjusting Grace's tiny pink hat. "She'll grow up knowing her parents are human," Amara corrected softly. "Heroes are for stories. We're just people who loved each other enough to survive the worst and create something better." Tell me in the comments, do you think surviving something terrible together makes a relationship unbreakable, or does it just teach you how strong you already were? Because Daniel and Amara were about to discover that their real story was just beginning. The woman who once stood helpless in a silk gown now stood before Congress, wearing her own designs and speaking for every wife who'd ever been treated like a transaction. 5 years after Miami, Amara McAllister stepped up to the podium in the Hart Senate office building, her voice steady as she addressed the Joint Committee on Family Protection Legislation. "My name is Amara McAllister, and I'm here to talk about what happens when predators disguise themselves as gentlemen, when businesses disguise themselves as social clubs, and when couples refuse to become victims." The room was packed. Victims and their families, lawmakers, media, representatives from the Foundation for Marital Protection that she and Daniel had established with the settlement money from their lawsuit against Victor's estate. Behind her sat Daniel, now serving as the Foundation's legal counsel, and their 3-year-old daughter Grace, whose presence reminded everyone what they were fighting to protect. The acquisition club destroyed over 200 families before we stopped them, Amara continued. But they weren't unique. Our research has identified at least 12 similar networks operating across the United States. Rich men who view other people's marriages as entertainment, other people's wives as prizes to be won. Have you ever turned your worst experience into your greatest strength? That's what the McAllisters had done, transforming their trauma into a mission that had helped hundreds of couples recognize and escape similar situations. The Foundation's work was comprehensive. Education programs for couples, support groups for survivors, legal resources for families under attack, and most importantly, early warning systems to identify predatory networks before they could cause widespread damage. We've learned that these networks follow predictable patterns, Amara explained to the lawmakers. They target couples with specific vulnerabilities, financial stress, career pressures, marital dissatisfaction. They position themselves as solutions while creating deeper problems. They exploit love itself as a weapon. Senator Patricia Williams leaned forward. Mrs. McAllister, what would you say to couples who might be facing similar situations right now? I tell them what I learned that night in Miami. You're stronger than you know. Your love is worth more than their games. And survival sometimes means playing along until you can change the rules entirely. The hearing ended with the unanimous passage of expanded federal legislation. But for Amara and Daniel, the real victory was quieter, more personal. That evening, they returned to their Georgia estate. Not the inherited wealth of Daniel's family, but property they bought with money earned from speaking engagements, book sales, and consulting work. A home they'd chosen together, far from Miami's memories, but close to Atlanta's support systems. Grace played in the garden while they prepared dinner, her laughter mixing with the sounds of evening birdsong. Normal family life. Something they never thought they'd have after everything they'd survived. I got a call today, Daniel said, chopping vegetables with the precision he'd learned during his recovery from the poisoning. Another couple in Oregon. Same pattern, wealthy businessman targeting the wife while the husband's traveling for work. Are they willing to fight? They want to meet with you first. Learn how you survived it. Amara smiled, stirring the sauce that filled their kitchen with the scent of home. Schedule it for next week, but no more than 2 consultations this month. I want to be present for Grace's dance recital. This was their life now, balancing their mission with their family, their public advocacy with their private healing. They'd learned to set boundaries, to protect their peace while still serving others. Later that night, after Grace was asleep and the dishes were done, they sat on their back porch watching fireflies dance across the lawn. Do you ever miss it? Daniel asked. Miss what? Being normal people with normal problems. Amara considered this seriously. I miss the innocence, but I don't miss who we were before. We were smaller then, more afraid, less capable. We were also happier. Were we, or were we just comfortable? She took his hand, their fingers interlacing automatically after years of practice. I love you more now, Daniel. Deeper, with more intention. We choose each other every day instead of just assuming we'll always be together. Their intimate life had evolved too, where passion once felt desperate, now it felt grateful. Where they'd once made love to forget their troubles, now they came together to celebrate surviving them. I have something to tell you, Amara said, her voice taking on the tone that made Daniel's pulse quicken with anticipation. Good news or challenging news? Both. She placed his hand on her still flat stomach. Grace is going to be a big sister. Daniel's eyes widened, then softened with joy and concern. Are you ready for another child? With everything we're juggling, I'm ready for our family to keep growing, for our legacy to be more than just a foundation, more than just surviving Victor's network. I want our children to grow up knowing that love wins. Not easily, not without cost, but ultimately and completely. The pregnancy announcement made national news. The McAllisters were expanding their family 5 years after surviving one of the most publicized marriage targeting scandals in recent history. But this time, the attention felt different. Celebratory instead of invasive. On a warm summer evening 6 months later, as Amara's pregnancy approached full term, she and Daniel walked through downtown Atlanta, recognized but not bothered, celebrated but not exploited. "Look," Daniel pointed to a bookstore window displaying their memoir, Stronger Than Silk, How Love Survives Predators. Next to it was a poster advertising Amara's fashion line, elegant pieces designed to make women feel powerful, not displayed. Clothes that celebrated strength instead of vulnerability. "Remember when you thought your dreams were too small?" Daniel asked. "Remember when you thought protecting me meant making decisions for me?" She countered with a smile. "We've learned some things. We've survived some things. And we've built something beautiful from the pieces." Their son was born on a crisp October morning, healthy and determined. They named him David, for courage, for facing giants, for the strength that comes not from avoiding battles, but from choosing which ones are worth fighting. As they brought David home to meet his big sister, Amara reflected on how far they traveled from that silk gown in Miami. They'd gone from victims to survivors to advocates to parents raising the next generation with hard-won wisdom about love, trust, and resilience. "So here's my question for you," she said to the camera during their final interview about the network trials. "If you could turn your worst day into your greatest victory, what would that look like?" Because every survivor's story starts the same way, with someone brave enough to say no more. The interviewer leaned forward. "What do you want people to remember about your story?" Amara looked at Daniel, then back at the camera. "That love isn't about rescue. It's about recognition. It's about two people who see each other's strength even in the darkest moments. And remember, your story isn't over. It's just getting started." 5 years later, the McAllister Foundation had helped over 500 couples recognize and escape predatory targeting. Their children grew up knowing their parents were people who turned their pain into purpose, their trauma into triumph. And sometimes, on quiet evenings in their Georgia home, Amara would find that white silk gown in her closet. The one from Miami, kept as a reminder of how far they'd come. She'd touch the fabric and remember the woman who'd worn it, terrified and alone in a strange man's mansion. That woman had survived. That woman had fought back. That woman had saved herself, her marriage, and dozens of other families in the process. That woman had become exactly who she was meant to be. If you've made it this far, you understand that the strongest love stories aren't about rescue. They're about recognition. They're about two people who see each other's strength even in the darkest moments. Comment below with which part of Daniel and Amara's journey hit you the hardest. And remember, your story isn't over. It's just getting started.